It's my podcast today. Change. Of course we're talking about change. Of course, why not? So, I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to tell you the truth too. Here's my podcast.
STL. Hey. What's going on, everybody? Today is September the 19th, 2022. I am so excited. I've got a guest on, a brother, becoming a friend slowly but surely. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't like me as much as I like him from a distance. He'll have to explain it in the next few moments. But again, I'm Andre Anderson, host and founder of BSTL, which stands for Building Something That Lasts. So guess what? I have on our podcast this evening, Dr. Lyle. Notice, I wish I remembered how to push the button for the hand clap. This guy is incredible. What he is doing out in Alberta and by extension, the rest of the world is incredible. Lyle, are you there?
Hey, what up? I'm here, man.
All right, welcome, man. Listen, can we just go ahead and let me just tell you something. One of the things that excites me about you is Black excellence, right? So I want our viewers to know, and it's not that it's self-aggrandization or anything like that, but you know what? I think it's nice whenever our people do something. Please tell us who you are, where you're from, what you're doing, and look, don't be shy about this educational piece because I want people to know that you're a big deal.
Sure. Well, listen, man, once again, Andre, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem.
It's a privilege and pleasure to be on the show. Straight out of Scarborough, representing Scarborough to the fullest. And essentially, I have a doctorate of ministry in urban studies.
Yes.
And I did some amazing research there with young adults and trying to see if small groups were sort of the key to life in connecting them back to the church. But currently, which I'm very proud of, I'm working on a PhD, a Doctor of Philosophy of Theology from South African Theological Seminary.
Nice.
And essentially, I'm looking at sociology of religion. I'm studying race relations within the context of the Adventist Church in Alberta.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure out why it is that churches are ethnocentric. We have about over 60 churches.
Yeah.
And over there, everybody goes to their cultural church.
Yeah.
And so I want to know, how come it's not intercultural? How come there's not this multicultural, everyone trying to run to the same place from different backgrounds? And so, studies, research is very near and dear to me. I'm sort of like an armchair sociologist.
Now, you know what's interesting? I'm going to call you Dr. Lyle, okay? That's what I want to do because I really want to give you a good push on this thing because I'm so proud of you. And you are from Toronto, right? But living currently in Alberta. And here's the reality, and I didn't say this before, but I also, at the undergraduate level, so I'm sure there's a whole lot that I can learn from you. I did sociology as my first degree. And so I love focusing on people and how groups, subcultures come together. That's my, I shouldn't say that's my thing, but that's one of the things that I've used along the way just to understand how people come together and why they do and why they do not. So I went to York University for that. So Dr. Lyle, we so appreciate having you. You got a family, wife, and kids, and maybe they're going to listen to this. I don't know. But again, today is September the 19th, 2022, and we're just so happy to have you. And for those of you that are tuned in, please make sure you share this widely. We're on Spotify as well as Amazon Music, but you can also check us out at rss.com and type in BSTL, which stands for Building Something That Lasts. So anyways, the conversation that we're going to have today, Dr. Lyle, it kind of is connected to this idea of how to lead, right? So on this platform, we talk about all things leadership-based. We want to talk about things that really matter around leadership. And of course, leading is hard. And maybe one of the reasons why leadership can be a challenge is because we are afraid of making mistakes. So let's start there. As a leader, right, you've got a big leadership role as the youth director in your context, right? I hope I didn't miss anything. I'm sure that there's some add-ons there. But you've got to lead courageously because of where you are, the demographic that you serve, maybe even your own background, being from Ontario, but now leading in a different context. Like, how can you lead and not be fearful?
Right. And I'm going to tell you, Andre, for a large portion of my leadership, years in leadership, I led from a place of fear. I was very scared. And to be honest, there wasn't a day that went by where I didn't feel imposter syndrome.
Okay.
I don't deserve to be here. I don't belong here. I'm not qualified enough. I don't have enough experience. That's what I replayed in my mind every day. And then meeting people and leaders who also indirectly or subconsciously made me feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
I think even as I started pastoral ministry,
Yeah.
I was quite young. And so I remember getting to Ottawa, and I was probably about 24 or so. And this is a true story. I would come Sabbath morning, and some of the, God bless them, the older demographic of the church, these ladies, as sweet as they are, they would say, "Is the boy here? Is the boy here?"
Yeah,
morning.
yeah.
So you could almost imagine how I felt.
Yeah.
I felt small. I felt little. I felt like a child, really.
Yeah.
And fearful. And Pastor Spence, a great colleague of mine who helped shepherd and lead me and mentor me during that time. I remember I would show up and I was afraid to face the people. I was afraid to preach.
Okay.
And I just had this fear in me and didn't feel like I was enough.
Yeah.
And I think it was probably halfway through my stint there, I started to sort of catch my footing and became a little bit more confident.
Yeah.
But then when I took on the role of youth director in the Alberta Conference,
Mm-hmm.
I worked with uniform ministry, so Pathfinders and Master Guides. And
now, hold on. Let me just pause you there, because not everybody that is listening knows about that stuff. So Pathfinders and those kind of things, that's like our equivalent of Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay,
yes.
cool.
And so I am now leader over the conference, over this territorial jurisdiction, the province of Alberta, when it comes to quote unquote Boy Scouts, Pathfinders.
Yeah.
And I remember I had went to an Oshkosh function, great big camporee, and I didn't have my master guide, Andre. I didn't have that qualification, but yet I was supposed to be in charge of this conference-wide club.
Yeah.
And the stares that I would get from particular leaders who had 60 plus years of experience, they were older than, their experience was older than I was.
Mm.
And so just being sort of made feel small.
Yeah.
And you know, I've been in this role about 10 years now, this leadership role. And I could tell you this, it's only now over the last probably year, 2 years, where I feel confident enough to consider myself a leader.
Wow.
And it seems kind of strange because I've gotten to pastoral ministry from 2007-ish, officially.
Yeah.
And it's only how many years later, 2022, that I'm feeling not fearful to lead.
Wow. Wow.
It's like a paradox.
Yeah, and that's 15 years.
15 years, Andre. 15 years of not feeling confident.
Wow.
Not feeling like a leader. Just every day pretending to be.
Yeah.
And maybe it was my own sort of insecurities.
Yeah.
But what I can say is, after time and experience,
mm-hmm.
and sometimes just being tired,
mm-hmm.
things change. Because where I am now, Andre, I'm not afraid of conflict. I'm not afraid to look someone in their eye and talk to them directly. And and you know, I read this book, I think it was called Crucial Conversations. And there's times where you have to have crucial conversations in order to move forward. And it's like night and day with my leadership now. And I'm actually enjoying leadership more. And I think there's a level of respect that also I think people see and offer me now that I'm more confident.
Yeah.
And I think now I trust myself to lead, whereas before I didn't.
So let me ask you this question then, Dr. Lyle. So here's part of what it is, right? You arrive in a context at the age of 24. And here's the thing. At 24, you could be leading any organization in any kind of way, because we all grew up with friends who had degrees, graduated, and or family members that connected them to organizations. And so I don't know that 24 is young, right? I mean, it's young, but it's not too young to be leading, right? So you say one thing early in this conversation, and basically you're like, okay, look, time and experience have helped me to become more confident. So please explain what time and experience have done for you, just in case maybe there's a young leader that's listening and they're like, I'm 24 and so I can relate to that. Maybe you can just move us forward from that. Time and experience.
Yeah, I think that I think one of the great things about school is that you learn information and knowledge. But what you don't get is the experiential part. And I think in any leadership role, I can teach someone something, but unless you've gone through it, unless you've experienced what it feels like, your emotions, the behavior, going through something, for me, I'm very big on experiential learning. Like, you've got to hit the field. Yeah. And if you make mistakes, that's good, because you're going to learn what it felt like to take that shot. Like, a lot of us, we're good at maybe the narrative and sort of the ideology and the notions and the ideas, but when you're in the game, I'm using sports analogy here, and the clock's ticking, and you're tired and you're fatigued, and you don't want to play anymore, because that's when you learn, when you're on the court. And so when I say that it was time and experience, I had to go through some things. There was an experience where I had to tell this probably 65-year-old leader that essentially their time was done. And here I am at 20, at 25. And I remember she looked me in my face, Andre, and she said, "You don't have a clue of what you're doing right now." Wow. And she said, "I have way more experience than you have age, and you're getting rid of that." And I had to sit in that chair. I had to look her in her eye. I had to feel the feeling. And so now I know what that feels like. Now I've gone through it. And so there's been countless other experiences that I have gone through that have taught me lessons, have taught me how to deal with the fear, how to face it, how to confront it. And so when I say time and experience, nothing can replace that in leadership. Nothing. You can read about leadership, but unless you've gone through those situations, I think that's what helped me, as a matter of fact. And I draw down on my experience now. So when something comes up, I can pick from that. I can take from that. I can go back to that place and know what it felt like. And it helps to carry me through this new experience or this new challenge. And
so let me ask you this question. Sorry to interrupt you, but I like the way that this conversation is going. So I'm getting kind of excited on my side. So how important is the mentorship portion of this, right? Because I'm hearing you say experience. Is it experience as you walk this lonely road all by yourself and you're picking up these experiences? Or along the way, do you have individuals that are pouring into you consistently that are helping you to kind of like become the leader that you need to be, right? Because the reality is sometimes we are mentored to becoming like those that have preceded us. The only challenge is that how they've led and when they've led is no longer as useful in the times that you will lead. Go ahead, Dr. Lyle.
I don't want to downgrade mentors and coaches. I think it's important. I think there's a place for them in leadership, especially as a young leader, someone who can come and speak life into you and encourage you and give you sagely wisdom. That's dope. I don't want to take away from that, Andre. But for me, I remember going through certain leadership challenges and talking over with shout out to Pastor Millett. He was a great mentor for me.
That guy was fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I still have to go through it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And as much as he could have held my hand, I had to go through the criticism. I had to feel the rotten tomatoes thrown at me. I had to eat crow pie. I had to feel the pie on my face. It's all about, I think, going through those experiences.
Yeah.
And there's nothing like it. You can't pay for it. It's something that just comes and you learn as you go through it. And so, once again, I'm not trying to take away from mentorship, but you've got to go through it.
Yeah.
You've got to be in the game. You've got to take those shots. You've got to get tired. You've got to get a stomach ache. You've got to maybe get sick and still learn how to play through the game.
Sure.
There's nothing that beats experience.
So let me ask you this question. Go ahead.
And here's the thing. Yeah. When I say that, I think more than anything, there's so many people who are afraid to touch the court. I'm using basketball analogy.
Yeah. I like basketball.
And play the game. And or start something. I have a really good friend. He has these great ideas, but it's hard for him to get them off the ground because I think he's afraid of failure. But here's the thing. For me, the greatest lessons in leadership is failure. It is failure when you like. I've started programs. I've done certain activities and certain ideas and things have failed. And I love it because it teaches me what not to do next time.
Yeah.
And I honestly have. I'm a very artistic and creative guy, and so I have these great ideas, and I like to try them. I'm entrepreneurial, and so I love startups. I'm a huge investor in pre-IPO startups, and I'm going to sort of give you this free game.
All right.
I invest in early stage companies that literally sometimes have no value, no valuation. The valuation. And I invested in a company out of the States, which allows you to invest in a wide range of early stage companies. You could put $100 in, $50. Anyways, I was in San Francisco, Silicon Valley, for some church work, but I took a day off and I went down to meet the CEO. So I'm in Silicon Valley, and here you are in one of the most popular, successful places in the world, because this is where Facebook is and Google and the billion-dollar unicorn companies are. And so as I'm speaking with the CEO of this company I invested in, this young guy, couldn't be more than 22 years of age. I said, man, tell me what's so special about Silicon Valley, And he said this to me. He said, a lot of people think that it's about the money here. And he's like, don't get me wrong, Lyle, there's a lot of money here. But he said this to me. He said this. He said, the reason why this place is so special to us as dreamers is because they tell us to dream big and fail even bigger. And so there's something about failure that I've learned to embrace. And he said this, with the failure, these venture capitalist investors, they will throw tons of money, millions, billions of dollars. Yeah. Because they know the statistics. The statistics says 8 out of every 10 new companies will fail. Yes. The 9th one will put forth a mediocre sort of return, but there's 1 out of the 10, which is called a moonshot. Now, the moonshot will make up for all of the losses and give you multiples more on your return. Yeah. And so he said they've learned the art of the pivot. Yes. Being able to change a little, just a degree, one
small
YouTube,
thing.
When it first started, YouTube was some relationship it was kind of going in that, you upload videos and then all of a sudden they changed something in the algorithm and boom. They're successful. And he also said this, closing this off this analogy, he says, when it comes to dreaming big but failing bigger and
Yeah.
and doing pivot. He says there's something when it comes to these ideas that we have and not being afraid
Yeah.
to fail.
Mm.
And we've learned how to push through the fear
Mm-hmm.
so that we don't fail in the process, because fear
Mm.
can drive you to fail as well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I've just learned that in the experience, don't be afraid to fail, because the failure is really what helps you to succeed. It's the learning what not to do, learning what to do, learning what works, what doesn't work, tweaking things. And so, I just love it. You know, he said something about these guys, these venture capitalists. They're able to support things that they cannot see, and so essentially, yeah, they have this. So they know these kids will probably fail, waste off, they'll burn through a whole bunch of money.
Yeah.
But they're supporting things in hopes of, even though they can't see the value now,
Yeah.
later on, that valuation will maybe be $1 billion company. No one was able to see it in the beginning, but they're not afraid to fail. They're not afraid to lose their money. They're not afraid to invest, because there will be a moonshot that recoups all of their losses and gives them a crazy return.
Now, here's the thing, Dr. Lyle. As I'm listening to you, it also sounds like this is a young man, right, that you would have been talking with in the Silicon Valley. And here's the thing, and I don't know that we do it. I don't know that we do it well enough, often enough, as a generalization. Like when I look at companies and organizations, usually it's somebody older. I mean, we're slowly but surely getting there. I mean, I know I'm the one that has all the gray hair, but we're all in the same hunt right now, right? And the reality is, a lot of similar to the conversation that you would have had with that 65-year-old, I think, woman that you mentioned earlier in our conversation, we kind of have this posture that we give a lot of credence and a lot of voice to the older voice, and maybe at the cost of the younger voice becoming frustrated, not because of the failure, but because of the opportunity. So my thing is that if by the time you get to 30, you have had 10 to 15, and I don't know how I feel about the word failure, Dr. Lyle, because I think it's an experience. Maybe I need to come up with my own word to describe it. But the reality is, if you can have 10 to 15 blunders, like major mistakes that don't necessarily make you look wise, and you can bounce back before you hit 30, before you hit 25, I almost feel like that is the thing that now gives you the secret sauce for the next 35 years, or up to, retirement, that now you become the dominating voice in the room, because you know what rock bottom is at your pre-peak time. Yeah, go ahead.
Fact. I think that right there, if young people could get that and understand what you just described, this idea of blunders, making tons of blunders before 30, and learning from it, and then beyond that, being able to rely and sort of go back to that experience toolkit.
Yeah,
I think that's really what it's about. But I'm saying, society, what we do is we praise the winners, right? We praise the successes. There's something within our minds we can socialize to negatively sort of interact with failure, and I think that's why a lot of us don't get things popped off. We don't start things. We don't try new things. We stay comfortable and stuck because we don't want to make mistakes. But I would love anyone hearing this right now on the sound of my voice. Mistakes is literally the key.
Yeah.
And I'm not giving a golden license to just make pure foolish.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's about, as you're going through the process of trial and error and trying something and doing something and starting something.
Yeah.
That's why I love entrepreneurship, because
Yeah.
it takes guts. It takes guts
Yeah.
to try something.
Yeah.
To out of nothing, to use your own money, to bootstrap. Like the life of an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Man, like hats off to them.
Yeah.
But there's some sort of dogged determination. I realize with entrepreneurs, there's dogged determination within them that's like, yo, I'm gonna try this thing until I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Until the wheel falls off.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get this thing going.
Yeah.
And you have to have that type of mentality if you're going to run a company or a business, right?
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%, Dr. Lyle. And maybe I want to add one other thing that's in there, because when I'm listening to you, it also sounds like the infrastructure around you lends for you to fail and still show up for work the next day. And, you know what I mean? And I know that, we live in a world, like I remember when what was it called? The Apprentice was on. And I mean, we were much younger when that thing was on TV, and watching somebody go to work on that day, and they had to be innovative, and they had to come up with these ideas, and they had to implement and do well. And if they didn't after that one particular day, they were fired. In hindsight, I don't know that that's the message, right? Because the thing is, if I make a mistake that leads to me being fired while you're asking me to be innovative, there's no reason for me to live on the edge. But if I'm allowed to try something, fail at it, and because I've been so innovative, even though I've failed in the moment, that's the person I want to keep.
Fact. And I think essentially, just based off what you said it right. I think that works when you're in an environment where you are given a license to try and fail.
Yeah. And
shout out to the conference, because I've been there a decade now, 10 years, and they've never said no to me, and,
nice.
And I've tried some things, and I've some things have worked and some things haven't, but I've always been accepted and welcomed and respected enough.
Yeah.
And that's what happens when you're around leadership and that trusts you. And so I think that's also important if you're working for an organization, because there are some people are probably not as lucky as me, and they would have got the pink slip if they wasted $100,000 on a young person's event in Banff or something,
and it didn't work.
You better believe you have to answer to that. That's money lost, right? So, but I was given. I've been lucky to have opportunities and experiences where people trust me and allowed me to lead.
Yeah. Let me ask you this question. Sorry about that. This one I got to get in before we finish, because I'm also mindful of our time right now, right? So here's the thing. Because we both grew up in Toronto in similar circles, I know that your beginnings have really informed where you are right now. Right. So despite what happened in your 20s, as people are, having to learn to live with the fact that, the 24-year-old pastor has to tell the 70-year-old no, I feel as though that kind of courage, even though you're shaking in your boots, it starts somewhere. Where does that start?
And this is where I sort of make the sort of the turn or transition into my urban sort of studies, culture, upbringing. Yeah, I grew up in Scarborough, and in one of I guess a low income population hood, you could say. Yeah. And so one of the things that the hood taught me, and that's probably why I was able to sort of keep up the facade until I actually gained the confidence. Yeah. Is that when you're rolling through the hood and there's opposition, or there's goons, or there's thugs, or there's mandem. Yeah. I was taught that you have to come with a certain level of confidence and show no fear. Yeah. Because the enemy can smell fear from a mile away. Right. And they will pounce on that, and they will take advantage. And so all throughout my adolescence and upbringing, I sort of had this exterior where, no one can talk to me. No one can touch me, in sort of Scarborough vernacular. And so walk around with this sort of mindset that protects you, because you have to almost act tough and look tough.
Yeah.
Not to say that you're going to go and start problems.
Yeah.
But you want to look a certain way so that problems don't come near you.
Yeah.
And so I had that veneer.
Yeah.
You know, and some people say, fake it till you make it. I guess I had to act courageous.
Yeah.
I had to act like I actually knew what I was doing, and that I was confident in myself and my skills.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. I don't know if our young people are being sort of taught that today.
Yeah.
I feel like the generation that we live in now is a little bit more fragile.
Yeah. At times, yeah. I can see where you're going with that.
Yeah. But back then, Andre, if that was your survival.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
If you didn't act like a bad man,
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You would be taking advantage of. Your kicks would be gone. Your chain would be gone.
That's right.
Tuck your chain.
Yeah.
So I think that sort of helped me as a starting place.
Yeah.
To say, in whatever situation I'm in, I'm not going to show fear.
Yeah. And Dr. Lyle, one of the things I appreciate is your transparency, right? Because usually when leaders emerge, they've got, the suits on, the white shirt. If it's a blue suit, then more than likely it's a brown shoe. If it's a black suit, then it's a shiny black suit, nice belt and pocket square. I mean, that's the look. But I appreciate you letting us know that you come from some humble beginnings, and so do I, right? Started in Rexdale, and of course, this goes all the way around the world, so people don't really care about where Rexdale is. But that's where I came from. I'm an RX man. I'm a West End man, right? And then Scarborough. And then now, because I'm getting older and I can't move as quickly, I'm out in Durham. But the reality, though, is that sometimes we forget that we are developing leadership skills in the street. This fight to survive, that's some of the secret sauce that people don't understand by the time you clean up and you got some of these letters before and after your name. And maybe what I'm also saying is to some of these young leaders that are listening to us, don't throw away some of your street experiences, because that's the thing that has also shaped and carved some of the instinct that you have. So 100%. Here's the thing, Dr. Lyle. You got to give us one takeaway before we finish this conversation. You get the last word before we fade to black. Give us something, man. How do we navigate this thing? Whether you're a young leader or an older leader, but definitely maybe a newer leader, is there one thing that you want us to take away from in this conversation?
Yeah, I want to give you two things, but very quickly, I love how you touched on your past experience, where your upbringing, the environment shaped me and made me. And so every time I come back to Toronto, I have to go by Parkwoods and Roywoods and my old neighborhood and just sort of touch the road, touch ground.
Touch ground.
But the thing about it is, what I've also learned is that when I was growing up, I had a certain you had to have style. The newer sort of word is swag or sauce or drip.
Yeah.
But I still, wherever I go, I rock that same street style as my call card. And I learned this from Mark Zuckerberg and the dude from Apple. And the idea is that you have to have a uniform. Yeah. And so many times we think that the Eurocentric, the suit and tie, that's our uniform. I prefer, as a PhD candidate, to roll up in some Jordan 1s and a Converse West hoodie.
Yes.
And people, whenever I have to speak, sometimes they're like, okay, where's our speaker? And then they realize it's the guy with the urban hoodie and J's.
Yeah.
There's something about authenticity that sometimes we lose or are willing to give up because we've reached higher levels.
Yeah.
I think that it's good to carry some of that authenticity with you. The second thing I want to say is that it's oftentimes when you're in dark places, dark seasons of depression, of hurt, of pain, when you're going through this wilderness, that is when you're being prepared and developed. And I sort of draw on a biblical example of David in the cave of Adullam. Yeah. It's interesting because David, this biblical character, as he's hiding in a cave from his ops, this is where he learns how to lead an army. And it is from that experience where he learned to lead the gang.
Yeah.
That he's now, when he's literally coordinated as a king, he's got leadership skills.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying to you is, it's in the cave.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not in the school. It's not in the, the business school or, the position, so to speak. A lot of the times it's in the dark times when you don't even, you're being prepared.
Yeah.
That you're learning certain skills.
Yeah.
That will take you to your next level and prepare you, position you for your next level.
Yeah.
That's when I want to leave the show.
I appreciate that. And look, your last one, that so resonates with me, man, because some of the greatest blunders and failures that I've had and many other leaders that I speak with have propelled and given the next set of, you talk about the toolbox. I mean, who cannot come out fighting properly once they've hit ground zero? And often we don't like to talk about ground zero. We only want to talk about the apex, the top of the mountain. And the reality is, it's that ground zero. And mind you, ground zero looks different for each person, right? Some people have to experience lower than low, and some people are just, kind of almost up the mountain, but that's their ground zero. But it's the low points based on where you are at that will define, I think, where it is that you're going to go. Look, Dr. Lyle, you better not make this be the first and the last time you come on this podcast. I am going to be reaching across this side of the world for us to do this again, even though the time zone might be a little bit different. The conversation has been rich, and I so appreciate you stopping by. Thank you so much. And listen, all the best on this second doctoral degree. I mean, I've watched what you've been doing from a distance, and not only is it cutting edge, it's game changing. So shout out to your family. I used to be your mom's pastor. She's quiet but a strong lady, and I feel as though she's uploaded a lot of who you are as a leader as well. So thank you so much. Sister Elaine noticed she's going to be mad because she's on a podcast. I'm sure she's going to be like, why you guys had to call my name? Too late. It won't be edited out. Listen, this is BSTL, building something that lasts. And we hope that you've enjoyed the conversation. And yes, we're going to have a recap at the end of this. But we're so glad that you tuned in today. And we're talking about leading not from a perspective of fear, but from experience. Dr. Lyle, thanks again, and hope to see you all next time as we continue to build something that lasts. Take care.